Hey Guitar Champion, what's going on? Justin Hombach here, back from my practice cave, and welcome to this lesson on how to play the solo of the legendary Sea of Lies by Symphony X. The solo, and especially the tapping passage from Sea of Lies, is I think one of the most recognizable and legendary parts of the Symphony X catalog and all of their songs. They're really famous, especially for this section, but not without a reason, because it's a lot of fun to play, it's a lot of fun to learn, and as always, it's a lot of fun to teach. And therefore I am here to teach you in this video how you going to play, or you can play, the solo of Sea of Lies. As always, the tabs, put them in the description box. There's a download link where you can download them. And I'm going to play the solo first slow, and then we're going to dive right into the lesson. Cheers! Okay, first of all, I'm tuned to normal E standard. Michael Romeo is usually tuned to D standard, so a whole tone below our regular tuning, but I'm, for the more convenience purpose, I'm tuned to E standard. So this is my E. Okay, the scale that we are in Sea of Lies is a combination between E Phrygian dominant, which is the 5th mode of the A harmonic minor scale, regular E minor with some kind of pentatonic bluesish influences, and G sharp minor. We are modulating later on to G sharp minor, which is the major third apart from E. Okay, let's continue with the first, or let's start with the first section of the solo. The first section of the solo in slow goes like this. Okay, we are starting with a bending from the 15th fret of the B string to the 17th fret, our root note, in this case the E, with a really slightly vibrato in it. Then comes this phrase. Here we are outlining an E major triad with a flat 9 in it. So we're starting with the 3rd and the 5th from E major, which is on the on the G string, 13th and 16th fret. Then we're going to the 14th fret on the D string, which is our root note, the E. Then we are playing 15 and 18 on the B string, which is our 7th and our flat 9. And we're going back to our phrase on the G and on the D string. Then we're jumping to the E string, having the same finger shape, index and pinky, 13th fret and 16th fret on the E string, which is in this case the F, the flat 9, and the G sharp, the major third. And going back to the phrase on the G and on the D string. Well, this could be also seen as a diminished chord. Diminished chords are often used to substitute the sound of the Phrygian dominant scale, the harmonic minor scale. Really interesting stuff, really worth to check out how to create this Phrygian dominant sound with diminished chords. Okay, and this line is also a really great picking exercise because we have a lot of string skipping in there, a lot of some unconventional picking directions and stuff like this, so it's really awesome to train your independency of the right hand. The first thing that we came across here is the movement from the G to the D string. You have to use inside picking here, and for inside picking I recommend upward pick slanting. I think I've mentioned it now thousands of times, but if you don't know what pick slanting is, then check out Troy Grady, Cracking the Code. Really worth to watch. I think it's time to do a lesson for my own, but let's continue with Sea of Lies. Then the first string change to the B string. Here I recommend downward pick slanting, so the slant have to change. Then the movement back is quite difficult because we have to jump from our index finger in the 15th fret to our pinky in the 16th fret on the G string. We have to make this jump. And I highly recommend to everybody try to practice this kind of jump for its own. So you get used to it, and so you get used to it and you get a little bit familiar with this kind of movement. So, und du nimmst ja jetzt das auf. Okay, nochmal. Pick direction, or the pick slant that we are choosing, stays the same, especially on the string skipping section now. Pick slanting helps us a lot when it comes to string skipping because we are focusing that our pick tip is always free and is not trapped between two strings. And this can help us a lot with string skipping. So focus a lot on pick slant, pick direction, so the minimal kind of stuff in the right hand, but it's really worth to focus on this one to have a more fluent and nice and clean playing, especially when we're playing it up to tempo. Okay, now let's check out the second phrase in this first section, and it goes like this. This is a really typical Michael Romeo kind of phrase. I've seen this kind of idea and phrase and finger shape a lot now in the last months, where I've learned and covered a lot of Michael Romeo stuff, and we are still in the Phrygian dominant scale, and in the A harmonic minor scale, and we're starting on the 16th fret on the E string and playing 16, 17, 19, 16, 17, 19. Going to the B string, where we're playing 15, 17 and 18. And especially this kind of jump, this kind of fingering is something I've seen quite a lot in Michael's playing. So this is really typical Michael Romeo style. Then we're going an octave below from our first phrase. Oh, not really, not yet an octave below. We are one finger position higher, so we are playing 14, 16, 17. But then we're going to the finger shape where we're playing 13, 14 and 16, and this is the shape, the same melody, the same shape like in the beginning of this phrase, just an octave below. But here we are playing it as triplets, and we're doing it legato with hammer-on and pulse. Then we're going to the octave below of our second phrase on the B string, now on the D string, playing 15 and 14. With our index, with our pinky and our ring finger. So especially this kind of switching between all those octave shapes is something which is really typical and familiar for Michael Romeo. Okay, let's continue the phrase and let's combine it with the first phrase. Now comes the third phrase of the first section, which is a tapping phrase, and it goes like this. Here we are outlining a diminished chord, and as I said in the beginning, diminished chords are really familiar to the Phrygian dominant sound, or outlining pretty well the Phrygian dominant kind of sound, this kind of tension that we love in our metal music. And the cool thing, I've said it in so many times in so many videos before, the cool thing and the awesome thing about diminished chords is that they are symmetrical. So our finger shape stays the same in every inversion. For example, here, the first part is on the D and on the B string, and we have to tap the 12th fret, the 15th fret and the 18th fret, and the same fret on the B string. Now when we're going to the G and to the E string, our finger shape don't change. We're changing the frets, so we don't starting on the 12th fret anymore, we're starting on the 13th fret now anymore. Not anymore. And we're changing everything one fret higher, so we have 13, 16, 19 now instead of 12, 15, 18. But the distance of the frets in between those fingers stays the same. When we are reaching the E string, we are doing a double tap with our tapping finger. I use my middle finger on the 19th fret. And then we are pulling the phrase back again on the G string and resolving it to the 14th fret on the D string. Now watch out for the hammer-on from nowhere. So practice this kind of movement. It's really important to have the hammer-on from nowhere ringing as clear and as loud as the rest of the notes. So focus on this, so you don't have something like this. So focus on the hammer-on from nowhere. Now let's play the first section again up to tempo. Okay. Now let's check out the second section of this solo. The second section in slow goes like this. First we're starting with a typical A harmonic minor kind of run. starting on the 12th fret from the A string, playing 12, 14, 15 on the A, 12, 14, 15 on the D, 13, 14, 16 on the G, going back to 14, 13, and doing this kind of really classical, typical classical cliche phrase. Where we're playing the 15th fret on the D string, going back to 14, 13 on the G string, playing 15, 14 on the D string. Then we're playing 12, 14 and 15 on the D string. This is the first part. Again, for the right hand, I recommend upward pick slanting. But it can be that Michael is playing this as economy picking. Economy picking isn't really my strongest technique yet. I'd rather play it alternate picking. It's more my kind of style. You can try it economy picking. What does economy picking mean? Well, economy picking means that he's sweeping from one string to the next string. So we have a rest stroke where you push the downstroke a little bit harder against the next string. So you're landing on the next string before plucking the string. So you are sweeping across the strings to have a little bit more a kind of fluent sound. So, but you see, it's not my strongest technique. I'm more the alternate picking guy yet. But I'm working on my economy picking. You always have to work on something new, and for me it's economy picking, right? The next phrase is a really interesting phrase. Because here we are outlining an F major triad, which brings a little bit more, again, this Phrygian dominant kind of sound in the foreground. But we are adding some grammatical approaches to it, which is a typical kind of playing for gypsy guitarists, for example. For gypsy guitar players like Django Reinhardt or Stochero Rosenberg or Birelli Lagren, all those kind of guys. And what does this mean, grammatical approach? Well, we are approaching to the note and away from the note in a grammatical way. So we are first starting the F major triad with playing the root, then the third, up and sliding to the fifths. So we have 15th fret on the D string, 14th fret on the G string, and 17th fret on the G string, where we're sliding to. And then we are playing the root, going one grammatical approach down, so one fret below. The same from the third. Here's the third on the 17th fret on the E string, going one down, and the same on the fifths. Here's our fifths, and we're going one fret, one grammatical note below. So basically we have this kind of arpeggio shape, but to give it a little bit of nice attention to it, we are using this grammatical approach. But for me, I recognize myself this kind of line by seeing it as this F major triad arpeggio with resolving on the 24th fret the E, which is the major 7 of the F major, and our root note when we're thinking an E Phrygian dominant. Okay, this was the first part. The second section of this solo, of the Sea of Lies solo, is a reprise from the intro, and it goes in slow like this. Here we're having a sequence, a really typical sequence for this neoclassical kind of style. This one. Which is kind of a pedal note sequence, because we are always moving back to the pinky, or the note which lies on the pinky. This lick itself can be a really tricky lick and really challenging for or a really good exercise for your independency in your right hand and in your left hand. Well, the right hand only have to pick, but the left hand, the synchronization isn't easy with this kind of lick because you have to move every finger. You aren't really able to lay down one finger, or I wouldn't recommend it. This is a bit of a different topic, but I would recommend to move every finger. So even our index is moving here. And we are taking this pattern and playing it across the D minor scale, or in this case the D harmonic minor. Okay. Now I'm realizing that I forgot to mention in the beginning that we are also in D harmonic minor for this kind of little part, but now you know it. Okay, we're starting here on the 8th, 10th and 11th fret of the B string. Then we are going to 6, 7 and 9. So, but we are playing, of course, 8, 11, 8, 11, 10, 11, 6, 9, 7, 9. Then we're going to 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we're going to 5, 7, 8. Then again 6, 7 and 9. Then we're going 5, 7, 8 on the A string. Again 5, 7, 8 on the D string. And last but definitely not least, 4, 5 and 7 on the A string. And resolving into a D power chord. And then we can play some tapped harmonics on the A, D and G string. Just tap the notes that we're playing 1 octave below, so 12 frets higher. We have the 5th fret, 5 plus 12 equals 17. Then we have the 7th fret, 7 plus 12 equals 19. So just tap the note, or more the fret, that are 12 frets higher. Okay, and now I'm going to play this one up the tempo, and then we are moving to my favorite section and the most legendary section of this solo. Okay, now it's time for the tapping unison with the keyboard together, and this is, I think, the most famous section of this solo and of this song, and maybe of this record itself, because it's really, really awesome. I love this section. Okay, let's check out this section first, slow. Okay, let's try it up to tempo. Okay, the tapping pattern is divided into two different kind of phrases. The first phrase is the one on the E string, where we're tapping on the 15th fret and pulling to 14 and 12 with our ring and our index finger. And then we are string skipping to the G string, where we're tapping with our tap finger on the 16th fret on the G string, pulling to the 12th fret with our pinky, then where our ring finger rests on the 11th fret, and then on the 9th fret on the G string and hammering back again, even with the tapping. So it's basically this one. It's the same melody like this one, just an octave below, but why isn't he playing something like this? Just playing the scale up and down. Well, because he wanted to edit this kind of note. This one, the 16th fret on the G string, and he wants to play with the movement of the 16th fret to the 17th fret and the melody which we are creating when we are moving this kind of note. So I really can imagine that this section was actually composed by Michael Pinella, the keyboard player, because it sounds a little bit more like a typical keyboard kind of phrase, a little bit more of a typical two-handed keyboard arpeggio kind of phrase. So I could imagine that this phrase actually, the complete section actually wrote Michael Pinella. But Michael Romeo has found a really awesome way how to play this as a guitar player with tapping. So this is our first phrase. Then we are changing from the 16th fret to the 17th fret, creating this kind of James Bond cliché arpeggio type of sound, where the fifths in a chord is moving in half step higher. And then we are going to a chord below, the D, playing this kind of phrase on the E string, 14, 12, 10, but the phrase on the G string nearly stays the same. The only difference is that we are now tapping in the 14th fret, not in the 16th or on the 17th fret anymore. And then we're going back to the first phrase. So we have three kind of different phrases, first, or the different tapping arpeggios. First we have the one we are tapping on the 16th fret on the G string, then on the 17th fret, and then we're moving everything 2 frets below, or 1 scale degree below, and tapping on the 14th fret on the G string. Alright, well, on paper this tapping idea and this tapping section isn't that hard. But when we want to play it, it can be really hard because of the tempo. The tempo is quite high here, and it's really hard to get every note clear in this kind of fast tempo. What happens really often, and I've seen this in some other cover videos, and it happened to me as well when I was practicing this kind of lick, that this in slow-mo happened. Notes are overlapping. Now, but how can we practice and train this section to get every note under the umbrella? So every note is there and we don't overlapping some notes, and some notes aren't ringing or some notes are disappearing. How can we practice and training this? Well, I have one method that I really recommend. It goes like this. Try not to practice the complete tapping section. Try to practice in smaller sequences and smaller chunks. For example, first, only practice this one. Maybe with the note before, the 12th fret. So that you have every note for those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those 6 notes clear and loud in your playing. Then at the next note. At the next note. And at the next note. Then at the next note and the next note and the next note, and so on, so on. Try to play it in chunks and try to increase those chunks. And then try to focus again on a bit more smaller chunk. For example, just play this one. And focus that you really have ring finger and pinky separately, and not like this. Which can happen really often. So this is my way how I trained and practiced this kind of tapping section, and really helped me a lot to get from this kind of playing to this kind of playing. Let's check out the third section, which is the biggest section of this solo, in slow. Okay, this is also divided in different parts. The first part is the following. Here we are in, as I've said, the combination between E regular minor and E Phrygian dominant or Phrygian minor. We are starting with the E on the 14th fret on the D string, playing it twice and nice with a little vibrato. Then we're playing 11, 12, 11 on the G string, which is the sign for the regular minor scale, because here we have the regular 9th, the regular 2nd degree of the minor scale. Then we are bending from the 14th fret on the G string to the note which lies on the 15th fret of the G string, the flat 5, which is its kind of bluesy sounding vibe. And after that we are playing the following octave pattern. Here we have again more the Phrygian minor kind of sound, or we are outlining an F major 7 sound. F major 7 comes from the Phrygian minor scale. And we have 15, 14, 15, 14, 17 on the D and on the G string. Then playing 17, 18, 17, 20 on the B and on the E string, and then we're going back to the G and on the D string, and the same pattern octave below on the A and on the E string. The next part of this section goes like this. First off, we're starting with octaves, and first we are playing it in the E minor scale. So we have 9th fret, going to 10th fret, going to 12th fret, 14, 17, 19, and then we're going to the G sharp minor scale, and we're reaching it by going 1 fret below from the 19th fret to the 18th fret, and sliding to the 11th fret. Then we're going to another really cool tapping passage, really cool tapping line, which is really typical again for Michael Romeo. It's a really typical Michael Romeo lick, and it's a G sharp minor arpeggio that we are outlining with this kind of tapping arpeggio, G sharp minor 7 arpeggio, G sharp minor 7, G sharp minor 7. Not so easy to pronounce for a German guy like me. And it's slow, it goes like this. And fast. First we are starting with the hammer on from nowhere on the 11th fret on the A string. Then we are hammering to the 14th fret A string and tapping on the 18th fret A string. So we have root, 3rd, 5th. And then we are going to add the minor 7th on the G string with the 11th fret and the root, 13th fret, and tapping 3rd on the 16th fret. Then we're playing everything descending with pull-offs. Then we're playing it again ascending, adding the E string, and here we have the 5th, the minor 7, and the root on the 11th fret, the 14th fret, and the 16th fret. Then we're playing it again descending. Now we're jumping to the 18th fret on the E string, which is the 2nd degree scale from the G sharp minor scale, the 2nd, 9. And then we are pulling 14, 11. And then we're tapping 19th fret on the E string. And again, 18th fret. And in between that, we're always pulling 14, 11. And after this little phrase here on the 18th and 19th fret, we're going back to the G string and resolving into the 14th fret of the G string. So altogether it is okay, coming to the next part of this solo section, and it goes like this. first off, we are starting with the 11th fret on the D string, bending to the 13th fret. Then we're doing a little hammer on a pull off between the 8th and the 9th fret on the G string, going to the 9th fret on the D string, and playing this phrase. Starting on the 9th fret on the D string, playing 9, 11, 9, 8 on the G string, and then 9 D string, 11 A string, resolving to the 9th fret of the A string. Then we have a really awesome picking pattern which goes like this. This picking pattern is built out of 3 notes on one string and 1 note on the string below. So it's kind of a reversed Paul Gilbert lick. The typical cliché Paul Gilbert lick is 3 notes on one string and then 1 note on the string above. But here we have 1 note below. Here we are starting on the 12th fret, playing 12, 11, 9, and going to the 12th fret on the E string. For our right hand, I highly recommend again upward pick slanting. And when we reach the E string, we have to change to downward pick slanting, so the tip of our pick is free to move to the, or to jump to the next string, which is the D string. We have a little string skip here. And here we are playing 14, 13, 11 and going on the 14th fret of the A string. Then same fingering, the same frets and shapes, just starting on the G string, going to the D string, then we're going to the B string, playing 17, 16, 14. Now we're going to the 16th fret on the G string, going to the E string, where we're playing 17, 16, 14, again B string, 17, 16, 14, playing it up again, to our ring finger on the 16th fret on the E string, and then we're sliding into the 21st fret on the E string. Coming to the last phrase of this section, the last phrase goes like this. We are starting with the C sharp minor arpeggio, starting on the 18th fret on the G string, 17th fret B string, 16th fret E string, going to the 21st fret on the E string. Then we're going to the 19th fret on the E string with our ring finger, doing this little pull-off, M on a pull-off section between 19, 21, 19, and pulling back again to 16. Then the note on the 16th fret on the E string, we are doing a little dive with our whammy, and then we are bending from the 21st fret to the 22nd fret. Okay, and coming to the last part of this solo. The last part of the solo is again the tapping section, but this time it's, well, not double time, but it's shortened, doubled. In the first tapping section, for example, we have played the first part 4 times, the second part 4 times, so we're playing the part 4 times in the first section. But here we are playing it only twice, so we have only but the rest stays the same. In the end we have a little tapping pattern which goes like this. Where we are tapping in the E minor scale, starting on the 14th fret. It's only on the E string now. We are tapping 14, 14 to the 12th fret, and then we're pulling 12, 10. Then we're going 1 finger shape below. So we have 12, 10 and 8. Going back up again, next shape, which is 15, 14, 12. Then we go into next shape, again 1 shape below. Then the next shape, which is, sorry, I didn't mention that, 17, 15, 14. Then the last shape, which is 19, 17, 15. And then we're bending up to the 19th fret on the E string. And this was the complete solo. Okay, let me play this pattern again up to tempo. So, and this was the complete solo. I hope you liked this solo lesson on Sea of Lies by Symphony X. Go check out my other covers and my other solo lessons from Symphony X if you want to learn more about the style of Michael Romeo. I have some videos now on my YouTube channel. And yeah, I hope you liked this lesson. I hope I'm going to see you in the next video, on the next lesson. So far, cheers and stay progress. Bye.